Hi, Christy. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for introducing
Hello.
and getting us forward and getting us rolling. Thanks, Lauren, in the background as well. Right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to BTS with Do Think Do. It's a place where we chat live with invited guests and you, the audience, about topics that are relevant to leadership and coaching, L&D, and generally being good human beings. It's brilliant to have you along with us today. Please do post in the chat. As I can see already, people are doing so. Ryan, great to see you. Welcome from Amsterdam. Fantastic. And please even come and talk to us as we go through this 45-minute chat. Things are pretty turbulent in the world right now, aren't they? Lots of organizations are navigating massive change. There's restructures, rapid growth, hybrid work, layoffs, the pressure to deliver more with less. It's a lot. There's a lot going on, alongside a whole bunch of other stuff that's going on in the world as well. It's a tricky time. And in the face of all of that, it's no surprise, is it, that many leaders may feel like they need to put on a bit of a mask, be polished, unshakable, always on, always having the correct answer to solve everybody's problems. But what if that is a bit of a counterproductive instinct? What if, when we shut down openness and vulnerability, acceptance of failure, or willingness to be challenged, what if we're also shutting down trust? As Brené Brown might say, vulnerability fuels connection. And if we close ourselves down, if we protect ourselves too much, maybe we make it genuinely harder for people to connect. And we might lose the kind of real human leadership that teams genuinely respond to. The challenge, of course, is that it can be hard to translate authentic leadership into practice, particularly when the culture is be tough. So today we're going to take a dive into what authentic leadership might actually look like, not just in theory, but in real terms and under real pressure. And to help us do that, my guest today is someone who's lived that journey in one of the most high pressure environments there is, high level professional sport. And he's a former captain of rugby Leeds side, the Leeds Rhinos. He's part of the golden generation of one of the most successful teams in Super League history. And since he retired 5 or so years ago, he's become an acclaimed keynote speaker and transformational coach. And he's focused on helping leaders to embrace vulnerability, lead with courage. So I am very honoured and delighted to welcome to BTS Behind the Scenes, Mr. Stevie Ward.
Hello, how are we doing?
Stevie, here
Okay,
he is. How are you?
on another planet at the minute, mate. Just going to spend outer space.
Excellent. Take it to the max. I love that. So great to see you. Thanks for being here. We put a poll up at the top of the show, folks, and that was about what authentic leadership means to you. If we can see those results now, please, Lauren, that would be lovely to see. So, what's your take, your instinctive take on authentic leadership? Interesting. Look at that. Love it. Bring on the real talk. 75%. Sounds nice, but doesn't always fly in tough workplaces. 13%. And 13% for the middle one. Not sure what it actually means, to be honest. Only 2 votes really there, and nothing below that. What's your take on that, Stevie?
Well, it's interesting. I'm glad I don't have to be inspiring, which means the pressure's off, mate. The shackles are off for that. Um, but yeah, I actually get the fact that some people have said that they're not sure what it means because it's quite elusive. It's quite elusive for a cognitive grasp on it, to gain knowledge of it. I'm also not surprised that there is a weighing up of, does it fly in tough workplaces? Is there a place for it? How does it stand when we need to do something tough, where we need to work hard? And also, I totally get the fact that people are feeling into it now. I think every generation wants authenticity. It's just bleeding down the generations now with Gen Z and the younger population. They're actually asking for it. They're demanding authenticity. So I understand that there is, especially from looking at my research and just finishing that dissertation, there's a huge appetite for it. And I guess clarity on what it is, how we live it, and who we are is essential.
Well, the poll shows this. I mean, it does, doesn't it? And it is interesting because I think what you said is people want to feel into it. now because it is a feel thing, isn't it? But let's get right down to the roots of this. So, what actually does authentic leadership mean to you, Stevie?
What does it mean? I think for me, it means a place that has always been there. And I'm interested in this talk today, Glenn, because I'm hoping that we do something to shift a paradigm in how we think about well-being and about performance. Authenticity for me was always the place where performance would flourish, creativity, where I would feel well, even in high pressure situations, quote unquote. And it's a place of it's almost remembering it. And I actually wanted to use this piece of paper. I didn't know if you can even see it actually, just behind the planet Earth. But this piece of paper for me represents a clean, sleek, everything being on the menu, right?
Right.
That's what this piece of paper represents. And I mean that by the sense of being children when we're young, we're authentic, naturally. Everything's on the menu to laugh, to cry, to create, to feel disgust, to shout, to scream, to say no. That is there on offer when we arrive on this planet, funny enough. But what happens in life is instead of playing the game where we are trying to gain well-being, trying to be happy, trying to perform well, coming from a place of lack and scarcity, what happens if we already have it and this clean A4 white piece of paper is actually something that we fold in on, that we
Mm.
close off
Hmm.
life as we grow up in response to fear, in response to fear. And fear is something that emotionally we can't um, get rid of. Actually, it is the thing that is behind some of the best performances we'll ever see in sport, in art, in business.
Mm.
So authenticity is the place that I would find myself time and time again, which speaks to what we all intuitively see, which we all know in sport when a team blows another team off the field, and the commentators say, "Oh, they've taken the shackles off for this one," you know, or they've got nothing to lose. So authenticity is revealed when we understand that we can respond differently to fear and we can fully be who we are innately.
Okay. We'll talk about fear in a minute because I think this is a really important part of your thesis with a capital T and a small t, because I know you've just handed in a dissertation for a master's program. But look, can we just talk about kids for a moment? Because you mentioned about being kids, and certainly when I lead workshops, I talk about being a kid a lot. And
Mm.
I have a small boy as well, 2.5-year-old, and incredibly open, as you say, and ready and capable of feeling all of those feelings and doing all of those things. Equally, that lack of fear can mean that he might lead himself into danger sometimes, and that he might, do something that could crack his head open or could you'd fall off the edge of a cliff very easily. So, having some awareness of what could happen if we're allowing ourselves to be completely authentic is an interesting challenge, isn't it? Is it a trade-off for you, Stevie?
Um, I think there's two levels of it. There's healthy fear and there's unhealthy fear. Healthy
Okay.
fear is realizing that there is damage that can happen, is realizing that you can cause injury to yourself or to others. And these are the lessons that we learn growing up that fundamentally are baked into us growing up for survival. The other version is where we start to realize that who we are, not necessarily how we're going to hurt ourselves or what's going to hurt us. It's more about who we are. When we identify who we are with being wrong or unhelpful or too much or not necessarily productive or not good enough, those are the types of fears that end up becoming the things that cover up our authenticity, cover up our performance.
Hmm.
So we're not going to get away from the fact that fear is there for a reason. Fear is there for a reason before we do a talk. Fear is there for a reason before we go into a boardroom, before we step onto a rugby field. The difference is accepting that, being aware of it, and being able to walk through vulnerability. That's what an enabler is. And as a young person on a rugby field, the the example of vulnerability that is so stark to me is standing on a field 20 meters out from my own line and feeling the feeling of fear, you know. And I'm playing a game where I could get hurt, you know, like every day I was playing, training and playing that. And but there's that acceptance and going towards the line and gravitating towards the line. I was almost letting go of the conditions and the expectations that I would later pick up in life, being a professional rugby league player. Letting go, allowing myself to gravitate towards the defensive line, shape my body up towards the right, swing across the front of the defensive line, and all of a sudden having the guts, having the gusto to stamp my right foot down and cut into the defensive line. And if vulnerability is uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure, I can't think of anything else more vulnerable that we have in life. And I'd cop the shoulder, I'd feel the arms trail on my waist, I'd feel a fingernail scragging at my neck to pull me back towards the other side. But the way out is through. The way out is through. And I remember feeling my weight transfer to the other side, putting my foot down, putting it on the gas and knocking my head back and seeing the endless blue sky of Leeds rolling into the green field in front of me. And this is the thing, Glenn. I had the feeling of, oh, I knew it. The other side of that line, I knew it. So that means that before I got to the line, was full of fear, was full of doubt. So what was needed to go back to that potential, as I always say, because being a kid is vulnerable, living as a kid is vulnerable. There's nothing more uncertain, nothing more
Mm.
risky, and nothing more that where you will expose yourself emotionally as much as being a kid. So that's why I say authenticity is where that's where it is being a kid and it's being able to go back through that door of vulnerability towards your full potential and the place
Mm.
where you go, I knew this was me. I know this is who I am, but a lot of stuff has covered it up, got in the way,
Mm.
um, and that's how I see the relationship with fear.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Interesting, isn't it? So authenticity is overcoming fear. It's recognizing fear. I'm just really intrigued by this because if I think about my 2.5 year old boy, he doesn't really know any of this stuff yet. He just wants to do what he wants to do. We can see him learning. We can see him beginning to accept that there are boundaries and requirements and expectations, but he still just wants to do what he wants to do. But eventually, what will happen, I'm sure, is that he'll begin to apply the expectations of other people on top of his own desire and then make a decision about what he needs to do in any given context. And it may well be that he suppresses his desire for fear of being wrong or criticized or it being dangerous. Would you say that's an accurate analysis of how it happens, or is there something else that's missing there?
yeah, we when we have fear, the thing that we want to move towards is certainty.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the direction we want to move. We resist the feeling of fear, and then we find a way to find certainty. And as leaders, I can speak about it as when you're young, but an example when I was young is being on a rugby field, getting a whack around the chops and feeling like everything in you wants to cry, to go into the emotional regulation system, which is if
Hmm.
well-being is to regulate and to get back to a space of well-being, then I'd get told by a coach not to cry because I was going to show weakness to the other team. As a kid, you don't comprehend the fact that he means the 40-minute game that you're playing. You make it mean that it means the big game of life.
Right.
And so take many, many moments that built up. We start to, there might be more people on this call that knows about engineering more than I do, but we start to engineer smallness as we grow up because we realize that as human beings, the reason for why we feel fear is because we want to be safe. So we fold, we close up, and we end up with this version of ourselves that's a lot smaller. It says a lot less. It doesn't want to cross any boundaries a lot less. And ultimately, the potential of performance is totally cut off. the free expression is cut off. And for leaders, what I found mostly, that certainty in response to fear is centered around three things: image, so self-image, which, just to stress this, self-image is not a real thing. Self-image is like a photograph of you. It's not a real thing. It's a thing that you have in your mind, which is as flimsy as a projection on a film screen at the cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Self-image, so we are concerned about that, trying to find certainty of that. Knowledge, we want to be right.
Mm-hmm.
We can't be right on everything. That's impossible. And yeah, we want to look good. We want to know. These things are what creep up from the need for certainty, and
Okay.
that's where we get caught in that paradigm instead of being able to find the vulnerability, find the psychological safety, and ultimately the acceptance and congruence to truly who you are.
So when you turned around the fortunes of the Rhinos, then what did you put in place as captain in order to enable your team, and not just the players, right? Because it's the people around you as well,
Mhm.
to embrace that fear and understand it and turn it into something, into performance. What did you
Mm.
do?
So we'd had a lot of organizational change, a term which is obviously really popular at the minute. We'd had a lot of change. We'd had a lot of change. That meant the coach of 8 years that had been there had been sacked. He'd been moved on. He'd left. A lot of players were leaving the club, and a lot of players were coming in the club. So there was so much change, which ultimately is uncertainty, vulnerability, and then a lot of anxiety, which is discomfort with uncertainty. You know,
Hmm.
so I feel this. I'm a deeply sensitive person. So going into the club, I was feeling this, and I was also seeing the lack of performance and the aiming up towards KPIs, values that were written on the wall, um, that was brought in with the organizational change, and I was feeling that something wasn't quite right. And ultimately, the new coach that came in had lost about 8 or 9 on the bounce. He got sacked, and then we had some more influential people come in, to try to turn things around. And it got to a game where the new coach came in, and eventually that's where naturally the shackles would be off. And I watched the game injured, and there was playing the rivals of Bradford Bulls, and there was no spirit. There was no team spirit. There was no values. There was no identity. There was no shared meaning, and everyone was on their own game plan. You know, um, there was quite a lot of ego happening and people playing for themselves. And I remember we'd got called in the next day for a video review, and we were looking at drop balls and knock-ons and missed tackles, and I'm watching it, and I don't know if anyone ever feels like this when you're in meetings, boardroom meetings, or exco meetings, whatever it is. I'm feeling this beach ball coming up a little bit, and I'm pushing it down a little bit because I want to be safe. I want to be okay. I don't want to put my head above the parapet. And eventually, 40 minutes in, I just say, "What are we doing?" In a bit stronger, harsher terms, I say, "What are we doing?" And the room's dead silent. And people, what do you mean? I said, what are we doing? We're looking at these KPIs, and I'm sat here. It doesn't mean anything to anyone. So we're going out onto the field, and we're putting our body in the way of harm when there's nothing that it means. We've got people from Tonga and Papua New Guinea that have come over, and even further
Do think
afield for
do.
us
So
guys
please
was
keep your
Wigan and
thoughts
Warwick,
coming in
and
the chat throughout today.
further
But
field
for
there
now, well,
from where that is. And we're all in a room, and you want us to put our bodies on the line. You want us to give everything. We don't even know who we are. How can we give everything if we're not allowed to be who we are? And the coach is like, well, what do you think we should do? I'm like, well, we need to have conversations. We need to speak with each other. And this is way before I'd cognitively seen what I found in my research. We need to speak about who we are as a team, why we are
I'd
here,
love to introduce to you the
what we want
founder
to
of
do
Do
by the
Think
end of the
Do,
year, and how we
Glyn.
want to do it. And from that process, the 2 or 3 meetings that we've got, we developed trademarks based on what we deemed ourselves to be, how we felt that we wanted to be in the world.
So what did you get them to talk about? What were the conversations about?
There was a lot of truthful conversations, Glyn. There was a lot of truthful conversations. There was, and to be fair, just as you asked me, like the current leadership that was in place, it took a lot of uncertainty for them. It took a lot of them taking their hands off the wheel for this to allow a team to be so truthful and honest. And that's why I always say it's a reflection of the leader. The team is always a reflection of the leader for what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
But we spoke about, like, there was blokes that spoke about being depressed, speaking about being anxious, about how they were disappointed with the form, about people doing things that they weren't quite sure that they were right for. You know, I'm not sure if this is my best role here. And ultimately, the process was extremely important because it guided us to a place where we could all hang a hat on and saying, this is that, these are our trademarks. And then what we did is we broke down those trademarks as behaviors. And fundamentally, that created clarity for who we are as a team and what we expect from each other. And that meant we could be accountable. And that meant that the peer pressure that can be sometimes used in organizations to not give everything and to not care and to not do everything, that was turned around in a way of this is what we expect here. This is we've had the conversations, and that's the coupling with going back to the authenticity, that the mix that I feel is high performance is full authenticity and full intensity.
So, I mean, we've spoken before, you and I, and one of the things that quite kind of struck me about what you've said is that the kind of conversations you asked people to have were about heroes or what was important to them and just to share. Nothing significant necessarily, just why is this person important to you? What do you see in them that's great? Is that really where you were going with this? And
Yeah.
and rather than looking at the KPIs around how many times you dropped the ball or missed the tackle or whatever.
Mm. Yeah, we've got to remember that high performance is not a definition of who you are. It's an expression of who you are. So the way that I look at it is can this team, can they express themselves? Because on the field we're going to need it. We're going to need it to express. We're going to need emotional reaction. We're going to need them to care for each other. So if you want the KPI, if you want the result, then how are we going to get there? Because we don't just go out there and attain it straight away. So to answer the point, Glenn, yeah, it was sharing. It was being
Right.
vulnerable. It was
So if you've shared something together that is not necessarily about the game, not even about the sport, it's just about you as a human being, and someone shares something with you, then actually you're bonded more, is the simple truth of what you're saying.
as soon as Glenn, as soon as you say to me something about that's happened at home, or you're a bit worried about it, or you're worried about an email, you said anything, all of a sudden I read that as you saying, I need you to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, he needs us here. Like, and that's the energy you feel within a team where someone says the truth, someone says some truth, and people look around at each other and they're like, are we going there? Are we, is that, is that where we're going here? Because I desperately want it. I desperately want it, but I'm terrified about it. But this feels somewhat right, and this feels somewhat like we're connected in a way that we could never understand before this.
There's a quote that Brene Brown has, which I think you use, which is that vulnerability is not about winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's our greatest measure of courage. I think
Mhm.
that's what you're describing, isn't it? That actually, if we focus only on the performance indicators and
Mhm.
only what we're supposed to do, then we miss everything else that goes on around that that bonds us together as human beings. And that then means that we have each other's backs, I think, is
Mhm.
where you're going with that.
Yeah, there is this galvanization that happens in teams, which is what I think for why we call it team spirit.
Okay.
In teams we don't want to go anywhere near spiritual, but we want team spirit though. Um, I coach a lot of players, I coach a lot of athletes, Glenn, and they want to find certainty. They want to find how, if you're going back to that quote, they want certainty of outcome. So desperately want certainty of outcome because below that is scarcity and not being enough. So I turn it around. You are already whole. You are already complete. If this is an expression of that, how does it look? How does it feel? We're playing a totally different game here, Glenn. Totally different game. We're coming from being whole. We're coming from complete. And on top of that, I say, what is certain right now? What is certain? And they go, and then think a little bit more. And what is certain? I don't know. And that's the place that I've found within uh, years of thinking about it, years of being in the place as I'm thinking about it, that the shackles come off because you realize that there is nothing to lose. You
Hmm.
have the fear of nothing of being there's something to lose drops away,
Hmm.
and this is a powerful way to speak, a powerful way to open up possibility in
Hmm.
life
Hmm.
as a colleague, as a father, and often you have to be encourage yourself to encourage someone.
Hmm.
You have to
Hmm.
be encourage in vulnerability to encourage someone yourself. So,
So how would you encourage someone if they had to prep for a tough conversation with an individual or a team? What are the
mm,
steps you might encourage them to go through?
mm. Well, I'd ask mainly. I would ask, what's the truth? What's the truth in this situation? What we're feeling? What does this mean to you? What does this conversation mean to you? And from that point, we'd be able to understand all the thoughts that are happening that can be there that ultimately are wanting to find certainty of an outcome. They're wanting to find something to grasp on. And we'd be able to frame it as a situation where fear's okay. Fear is good in this matter.
Hmm.
And you can walk in there and you can be you. It's okay to be you. And if failure and making a mistake were simply things that we create that take us further away from being whole and complete, what would the person do where there's nothing broken, there's nothing fixing? How would that person go in? And all of a sudden, there's possibility of connection, there's possibility of things that you're wrestling over being okay, and there's compassion. And I don't know about you, Glenn, but if I was asked the question about who do you like being around, and I don't mean like the person
Hmm.
names, I mean like the type of people. Who do you like to be around? Who do you like to follow? Then for me, it's the people that are grounded in who they are. They're here to serve. They have love and are centered somewhat in what reality is, not what they're trying to make reality to be.
Mm. Okay. We've got a lot of comments coming in, and we're going to go to those in a very short while. Uh, I just have a very interesting question though, and it's a practical one, I suppose, again, because I'm interested in the practical. And what if, as often happens, you encounter resistance? Not just you, but anybody who's trying to work in this kind of way, and somebody says, "Oh, that's not relevant. That's not important. Let's just get the job done." What do you do if you want to be an authentically open and vulnerable leader and share and be human and connect and bond, but actually you find a lot of resistance with that? You must have found some resistance when you were
Mm.
leading the Rhinos, I'm sure. So what do you practically do about overcoming that resistance? Is it just about keeping on doing it and repetition, or is it about something else?
Ultimately, I think if you are a leader of a team, um, there's two things that I want to say. One is that when an environment is starting to be created in alignment with authenticity, with vulnerability, with openness, with relational transparency, um, then the environment starts to shift, especially when you're measuring it. And to go back to the practicality, after those trademarks were developed, our team, which we 6 months later or 9 months later, we ended up winning a Challenge Cup after not winning game after game after game. Um, you would be able to ask people within the room, where are we at within these trademarks? And our trademarks were brotherhood, respect, and accountability. So there's this constant metric that for people to fit in, you know,
Hmm.
for people to find their place in the group, which we're all human beings, we need to find our place in the group. They would merge towards that. They would find the old tanker shifting. Um, so that's the group thing, that's the leadership thing, that's the team thing. And for someone where you are speaking to someone who's got resistance, can you find empathy for that?
Hmm.
Can you find empathy for that? And I mean, can you be with what is resistant in you? Can you be with what is upset in you? Can you be with what you aren't comfortable with in yourself? And these lessons can be found in all the biggest blockbuster films that there is, especially Harry Potter, and you'll know this more than most, Glyn, the fact that it's about touching the darkness and
Hmm.
not letting it consume you, but being aware and okay that it's there.
Mm.
Any leaders that can walk that line, any human being that can walk that line and realize that there's a transformation for you, and usually that allows the people that feel resistance to accept where they are and to see that it's possible for them.
Mm. Okay. So overcoming resistance, it's a tough one. Let's have a look at some of these comments. So Kelly says, "Is that a fellow Yorkshire accent I detect from Stevie?" She said, "I don't know if you've seen these comments here, Stevie, but
Ellie
clearly
Rodriguez, that's not a Yorkshire name. Lovely to meet
authenticity." She says, "Showing up as our true self, developing a psychologically safe environment for people to show up as their true self." And Sally, do you think you can train leaders to be authentic, or is it an innate from within? And Kelly responded by saying, "Personally, I don't believe it is trained. It's within us and it's context or environmental dependent. It's twofold. Does the organizational environment enable a feeling of safety to be authentic? And individuals' inhibitions enables or prevents authenticity." So there's a big picture, Stevie, and there's also the detail of the individuals. And you've got to bring those together, I think, is what she's saying.
Yeah. So I would say, can you train it? Mm, I always say it's not about adding things. So, I'm not adding anything. I don't want to add any technique. I don't want to add any process. Or if anything, it's about taking things away, and
Mm,
that would touch the inhibitions. Um, it would touch on the fact that authenticity is actually unlearning.
okay. This is interesting. So taking things away,
Yeah.
actually, rather than adding more in
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
get down to the roots of things. Is this what you mean?
Yes, that's
Okay.
that. That's what it is. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
people talking about the fact that we can sense. We've got an incredible barometer as human beings that we can sense when something's not quite real. within
Yeah.
ourselves, but also within other
Hmm.
people. And there's a load of words about artificiality, constructed, um, and the fact is that it is an unlearning, and it is a realizing, that someone out there really great. I can't remember the quote. He said, "The first step of authenticity is being authentic about your inauthenticity."
Okay. Yeah.
That's what they say, and you sort of go, "Oh, okay."
And there was another thing you've said to me before, which is about what a coach had said to you once, which is know yourself, no problem, I think, wasn't it? You said.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So, all right, okay, we're going there. We're going there. So you said, I think I did. I think problem. Yeah. So he said, "No you, no problem." So when there is no you, there is no problem. So when I think about, if I ask you, going, what you had for breakfast 2 weeks ago, you probably
Mhm.
think, well, I don't know. I usually have porridge. I usually have eggs. I don't know. Why are you asking me that, Stevie? I'm like, is it a problem? Like, no, it's just a thing. It's just a circumstance. So the basis of this realization is the fact that there is only circumstances in life. There is only things happening. There is only reality as it is.
Hmm.
The problem is our resistance to it. So bringing in that resistance again. The problem is our resistance
Hmm.
to the circumstance. The circumstance is the circumstance, but it's when we ourselves identify with the resistance to the circumstance.
Okay. So very interesting. Authenticity, very important, valuable attribute in a leader, says Graham. It should be coupled with accountability for how that authenticity is communicated and expressed. So there's a balance there, Stevie. I guess you felt that a high degree of accountability as captain.
Yeah, yeah. And look, it's it's scary work. It's scary work.
Scary work being a human being.
Yeah, yeah. Going and being a human being and doing something
Yeah.
and applying yourself is scary work. And um, I think in essence, accountability comes with authenticity. Going back to the start, does it fly in a tough workplace? Like, I can't think of anything braver than being authentic. So the accountability comes in there is, well, who am I being today? Am I
Hmm.
being authentic? Are the people around me being authentic? And the precursor to authenticity, like we say, the vulnerability, the psychological safety. We need to feel safe because of the pressure, the fear, and often what we're saying a lot of the times in workplaces that stand in the way of performance because of the uncertainty that we have within each other or with each other interpersonally. The question you're always asking is, am I valued here? Am I valued? That's the thing that I would,
Yeah.
I would ask a lot of, even if someone would say to me all the time, you're valued, I'd still be, am I valued? Am I really valued? Can I tell the truth? Um, can, can I give everything?
And
Like,
will people value me for this? Yeah. We're running close to time now, Stevie. So let's have a quick look at some of these comments. So Cami says so much fear is our own projection of what might go wrong, and then
mm,
modifying our behavior to avoid that potential awful outcome. So courage is acting in spite of that fear.
mm,
And Ryan has picked up on this thing you said earlier on about engineering smallness. It reminds him of a Keith Johnston quote. Who's Keith Johnston is the modern father of improvisation, improvised acting. Those who say yes are rewarded by the adventures they have. Those who say no are rewarded by the safety they attain.
oh, Oh,
If you haven't read Keith Johnston's book on improv, by the way, Stevie, I definitely recommend it. It is a fantastic read about
wow.
being a human being. Alan says a child is on a self-discovery trip, but a lot of that fear that you talk about can be projected upon the child by the parent. And if we translate that, Stevie, from manager to team, that's an interesting thought, isn't it? That we can project our fears as leaders onto a team,
Mm,
or we can do the opposite. But
mm,
they lose the risk aspect, the intelligent reasoning, and it grows. That suppresses authenticity as it becomes a limiting belief, says Alan. Goodness me, so many interesting comments. Erica,
wow.
the
Wow.
biggest fear that holds people back from being authentic selves is fear of judgment.
Mm,
Truth and honesty is key, says Simon. A sense of common purpose and identity from Kelly. If something isn't frightening, then does it require bravery? It's the hardest choices that stretch us, says James.
mm,
Cammy's coming right back with a big challenge right now in business is the current uncertainty. So much disruption, leading authentically when things are so chaotic.
mm,
Yeah. How does an authentic leader hold that trust and space when they don't know the answers to what the heck is happening? Cami, this is very real right now. Louise says, do you think that in today's constructed and often artificial world that true authenticity is under threat? Are people who are authentic only appreciated if they only make noises that reinforce currently popular echo chambers? So
mm.
many amazing, and we could probably talk for many more hours about this, Stevie,
Yeah.
and we probably should. Cami also said that today's soundbite is it's scary work being a human being. And
That's
a
it.
final comment here from Louise. As a neurodiverse individual, I often find it difficult not being authentic, more the opposite. But
Mm,
I've often paid a huge cost for being open and honest. Seeing
mm,
the elephant in the room and making friends with them doesn't make you very popular. I wonder if, Louise, there's an always in there because sometimes it might, I assume. Making friends with them doesn't always make you very popular. Perhaps it's contextual in that sense.
mm.
Thank you, everybody, for those comments, and Louise, particularly for that one at the end. Thank you for sharing that very authentically, Louise, and openly. Appreciate that. Stevie, it's been a true delight to have you on and to hear you speak so eloquently about what we can do to create leadership that's grounded in humanity. I really appreciate that. I know you've got something you've written, a poem. Do you want to share it with us? It's
Oh, yeah,
short, everybody,
I
but
will.
it is about your experiences being an authentic leader.
Yeah, so this touches on exactly that quote, that amazing quote you mentioned. A lot of people there talking about projection and fear coming up, um, and actually this shift in paradigm for us as human beings to come from. And this is remembering authenticity. I am whole and complete. I am powerful beyond measure. Then I forget it. I forget it some more. Then I forget it a lot. Then I get worried and scared because I can't find it. Then I listen to you tell me how to get there. And so I worry about how to do that right and whether I'm doing it wrong and whether I'm getting there. Then I wonder what I need to do powerful again. So I start to think it's some distant place out there that I may never fully arrive at. So I make do with a new me, an incomplete me, a scared and concerned me. I start to try to believe in myself, but I never had to believe before. Why would I need to believe in something I already am? Maybe I only need to believe in something that is not me. Maybe the only thing I need is to just remember.
Just remember. Okay. Thank you very much. We're just going to do a quick final poll, Stevie. We've got a second poll, everybody. If you can just respond to this for us. And the question is, what's the biggest leadership challenge you're facing right now? Lauren's going to put up the poll in a moment. Let's see if we can just get some very quick responses to this. The biggest leadership challenge you're facing right now. The choices, by the way, as we're waiting for it to come up, are imposter syndrome, tough conversations, leading under pressure, team burnout, and staying motivated myself. Have we got
Thanks,
that
everyone.
poll
Lovely
coming
comment.
up? Okay. Maybe we're not going to see that. Okay. No, no worries. It looks like everyone's beginning to sign off
Oh,
anyway.
just come
So
up.
we're slightly over time as it is. Stevie, it's been amazing to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. And please, please continue sharing your whole human self with people in respect of encouraging that in other people, because I feel like everybody's been very inspired by hearing and seeing that and feeling that today. Everybody, the next BTS, the next behind the scenes will be on the 11th of June at 2 p.m. And my guests, I'll have two guests then. It'll be Helen Palmer, who's a director at the Learning Network, and Stuart Warner, who's involved with leadership and talent at Flutter UK and Global. And we'll be talking about positive performance management. Now, Stevie, I wonder if this is something that you might actually want to be a part of and come and join us, because I think this is going to be something close to your heart, I think. Because traditional performance management, as you've alluded to today, often focuses on what's wrong. How do we fix the gaps and address failures and enforce the accountability? Whereas positive performance management really shifts the focus to strengths and motivation and continuous development, creating a culture where people can thrive rather than just survive. So we'll be talking about that on the 11th of June at 2 p.m. Look out for our posts on LinkedIn. We'll be posting links from this as well, as will Stevie. Hook us up on LinkedIn, everybody, if you're not already. And thanks again to Stevie, my guest. And here's the poll results. Here we go. Look at that. What's the biggest leadership challenge, Stevie? Is tough conversations. Look at that. Nearly half is tough conversations, which absolutely, does it not, tap into what you're saying about having very honest and sharing human conversations.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great point to finish on.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Stevie. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you next time. All the best. Have a great rest of the week. Bye for now.